Hi everybody and welcome back to Junior Book Club. We are still reading The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin, and today we're going to read chapters 18 through 20. And chapter 18 is called The Trackers. It was Flora Baumbach who braided Turtle's hair now, sometimes in 3 strands, sometimes 4, sometimes twined with ribbons, while Turtle read the Wall Street Journal. Listen to this. The newly elected chairman of the board of Westing Paper Products Corporation, Julian R. Eastman, announced from London, where he is conferring with European management, that earnings from all divisions are expected to double in the next quarter. That's nice, Flora Baumbach said, not understanding a word of it. Turtle gave the order for the day. Listen carefully. As soon as you get to the broker's office, I want you to sell AMO, sell C, sell MT, and put all the money into WPP, okay? Oh my, that meant selling every stock mentioned in their clues and buying more shares of Westing Paper Products at a loss of some thousands of dollars. Whatever you say, Alice, you're the smart one. Flora Baumbach's hands were gentle. They never hurried or pulled a stray hair. Flora Baumbach loved her, she could tell. I like when you call me Alice, Turtle said, but I better not call you Mrs. Baumbach anymore because of the bomb scare, you know. Calling her Flora would spoil everything. Maybe I call you Mrs. Baba? Why not just Baba? That's exactly what Turtle Alice wanted to hear. Was your daughter Rosalie very smart, Baba? My, no, you're the smartest child I've ever met, a real businesswoman. Turtle glowed behind the Wall Street Journal. I bet Rosalie baked bread and patched quilts and dumb stuff like that. The dressmaker's sure fingers fumbled over the red ribbon she was weaving into a 4-strand braid. Rosalie was an exceptional child, the friendliest, lovingest. Turtle crumpled the newspaper. Let's go. I'm late for school and you've got that big trade to make. But I haven't finished tying the ribbons. Never mind, I like them hanging. Turtle felt like kicking somebody. Anybody. Good and hard. Sandy was not at the door when they left. He was in apartment 4D, neatly writing in his patriotic notebook information gathered on the next air. Baumbach. Flora Baumbach. Maiden name Flora Miller, age 60. Dressmaker. Husband left her years ago, sends no money. She had a daughter, Rosalie, a mongoloid child. Sold bridal shop last year after Rosalie died of pneumonia, age 19. Spends most of her time at the stockbrokers. Westing connection, made wedding gown for Violet Westing, but she never got to wear. Sandy turned to a fresh page, propped his feet on the judge's desk, and began to read the data supplied by the private investigator on Otis Amber. He laughed so hard he nearly fell off the tilting chair. Haunted by last night's dream, Theo jogged behind his partner halfway to the high school before he uttered a breathless stop. Doug Who stopped. Who lives in the apartment next to yours? Crow. Why? Nothing. How come he didn't know that? Because no one ever wonders where a cleaning woman lives, that's why. But he wasn't like that, was he? Still, it must have been a dream. In the dream, the nightmare, Crow had given him a letter, but the only thing he found in his bathrobe pocket this morning was a Westing paper hanky. Hey, wait, Doug had started off again. I figured out our clues. Ammonium nitrate. It's used in fertilizers, explosives, and rocket propellants. I knew those clues were a pile of fertilizer, Doug replied, jogging easily. Only one thing mattered, Saturday's big track meet. If he won or came in a fast second, he'd have his pick of athletic scholarships. He didn't need the inheritance. Stand still and listen. Theo grabbed Doug by the shoulders and held him flat-footed to the ground. Like it or not, we're partners, and you've got to do your share. Sure, Doug replied. His father was angry, his partner was angry, and a bomber was blowing up Sunset Towers floor by floor. Some game. What do you want me to do? Follow Otis Amber. Held tilted back, Flora Baumbach squirted drops in her eyes, blinked, and stared again at the moving tape. HR $1,000 42.5. WPP $5,000 39.25, BRY 27, TA $5 17.25, Z $5,000 27.25, WPP $5,000 39.5. Oh my, Westing Paper Products has jumped 4.25, no 4.5 points. Her eyes must be blurry from the medicine. The dressmaker sat on the edge of her chair, biting her fingernails, waiting for WPP to cross the board again. There, WPP $40. Oh my, this morning she had paid $35 a share. There it goes again, WPP $40.25. Oh my. After classes, instead of running around the indoor track, Doug Who jogged out of the gym to the shopping center 6 blocks away. There was Otis Amber placing 2 cake boxes in the compartment of his bike. He picked up a package from the butcher shop and pedaled off, unaware of the sweatsuited figure trotting half a block behind him, and went into Sunset Towers to make his deliveries. "Hi, Doug. Gonna run the mile under 4 minutes on Saturday?" the doorman asked. "Sure hope so. Do me a favor, Sandy. Give a loud whistle when Otis Amber comes out, okay?" Chip 2 Sandy gave such a loud whistle that Otis Amber would have been deafened if the flaps of his aviator's helmet had not been snug against his ears. Leaving his bicycle in the parking lot, Otis Amber boarded a bus. Doug ran the 5 uphill miles to a house with a placard, E.J. Plum, attorney. He ran another 3 miles uphill after the bus that took the delivery boy to the hospital entrance. Doug sank down in a waiting room chair, wiped his face on his sweatshirt, and picked up a magazine. Fascinated by the centerfold picture, he almost missed Otis Amber, who dashed out of the hospital as though fleeing for his life. Hiding behind parked cars, Doug followed the delivery boy to another bus, ran 4 steep miles to a stockbroker's office. How is it that all roads go uphill? From the broker to the high school, from the high school, downhill at last, back to Sunset Towers. The exhausted track star leaned against the side of the building, thankful he was not a long-distance runner. "I gotcha!" Otis Amber poked a skinny finger into Doug's ribs. He cackled, handing the starter runner a letter. "It's from that lawyer Plum. Says all the heirs gotta be at the Westinghouse this Saturday night. Sign here." With one last ounce of energy, he wrote Doug Who, Myler, on the receipt, then slid down the wall to a weary squat. Some Myler. His feet were blistered, his muscles sore, he could barely breathe. He might never run another step in his life. On receiving the notice of the Westinghouse meeting, Judge Ford canceled her remaining appointments and hurried home. Time was running out. Sandy read to her from his notebook. Amber, Otis Joseph Amber, age 62, delivery boy, 4th grade dropout, IQ 50, lives in the basement of Green's Grocery, a bachelor, no living relatives, Weston connection, delivered letters from E.J. Plum attorney both times. "I would have guessed Otis had an IQ of -10, Sandy said with a smile. "Go on to the next heir," the judge replied. Deer, D. Denton Deer, age 25, graduate of UW Medical School, first-year intern plastic surgery. Parents live in Racine, not heirs. Weston connection, engaged to Angela Wexler, C. Wexlers, who looks like Sam Westing's daughter Violet, who was also engaged to be married, but to a politician, not an intern. "That's awfully complicated, I know," the doorman apologized, "but it's the best I could do." Pulaski, Sidel Pulaski, age 50, education, high school, 1-year secretariat school, secretary to the president of Schultz Sausages, is taking her first vacation in 25 years, 6 months saved up time, lived with widowed mother and 2 aunts until she moved to Sunset Towers, walked with a crutch even before she broke her ankle in the second bombing, now needs 2 crutches, she paints them, Weston connection, ? "We don't have any medical reports on her muscular ailment," Sandy reported. "The nurse at Schultz Sausages said she was in perfect health when she left on vacation." "Strange," the judge remarked. "A suspicious malady, no apparent Weston connection. Somehow, Sidel Pulaski did not seem to fit in." Sidel Pulaski clasped the translated notes to her bosom. "My little secret mustn't peak," she said coyly, but the doctors had come to see Angela. The plastic surgeon loosened the tape from her cheek and peered under the gauze. "1 graft should do it, but we can't operate until the tissue heals," he said to the intern, then spoke to the patient. "Call my secretary for an appointment in 2 months. He strode out of the room, leaving Denton Deer to replace the bandage. "I don't want plastic surgery," Angela mumbled. "It's still hard to talk." "Nothing to be frightened of. He's the best when it comes to facial repairs. That's why I brought him in." "We'll have to postpone the wedding." "We can have a small informal wedding." "Mother wouldn't like that." "How about you, Angela? What do you want?" He knew her unspoken answer was, "I don't know." The door flew open and slammed against the adjacent wall. "Where do you think you're going?" Denton pulled Turtle to a halt by one of the streaming ribbons twisted in her braid. "The sign says no visitors." "I'm not a visitor. I'm her sister, and get your germy hands off my hair." Denton Deer hurried to seek first aid for his bleeding shin and sent the biggest male nurse on the floor to take care of Turtle, the same male nurse who chased Otis Amber out of the hospital for sneaking up on a nurse's aide, carrying a specimen tray and shouting, "Boom!" Turtle had time for one question. "Angela, what did you sign on the receipt this time after position?" "Person." "I changed mine to victim," Sidel said. Turtle paid no attention to the victim. She was more interested in the 2 men entering the room. The burly male nurse, and the creep of a lawyer plum. I gotta go. Don't say anything to anybody about anything, Angela, no matter what happens. Not even to a lawyer. You know nothing. You hear nothing. She skirted Ed Plum, dunked under the outstretched hairy hands of the male nurse, slid down the hall, scampered down the stairs, and out of the hospital. Hi, how are you? Ed Plum smiled at Angela, ignoring the patient in the other bed. He didn't recognize Miss Pulaski without her painted crutch. I'm sorry to hear about your accident. Otis Amber told me about it. Just thought I'd drop in for a chat. The young lawyer, who had admired the pretty heiress from the minute he first laid eyes on her, did not have a chance to chat. Grace Wexler entered the room, saw the answer to the clues, Ed Purplefruit, the murderer, standing over her daughter, and uttered a blood-curdling shriek. 3 visitors in one day. The first was Otis Amber with a letter and another receipt to sign. Chris had pretended to be scared by the boom, but he wasn't really. He had twitched because he was excited about going to the Westinghouse again, even if he hadn't figured out the clues. Then Flora Baumbach came to see him. He wasn't nervous at all with that nice lady. She smiles that funny smile because she's sad inside. She once had a daughter named Rosalie. She told him how Rosalie would sit in the shop and say hello to the customers and how she would feel the fabrics. Mrs. Baumbach made wedding dresses, which are mostly white, so she brought samples of materials with bright colors and patterns because Rosalie loved colors best. Rosalie had 573 different swatches in her collection before she died. Mrs. Baumbach said her daughter might have been an artist if things had turned out differently. What would I have been if things had turned out differently? The third visitor entered, limping. His partner was limping. Too much excitement, his stupid body was jerking all over the place. Denton Deer sat down next to the wheelchair. Take it easy, Chris. Calm down, kid. I'm not the creature from the Black Lagoon, you know. His partner, a doctor, watched horror movies on television, too. Slowly, arms untangled, legs unsnarled. Slowly, Chris stuttered out his news. Flora Baumbach felt so guilty about seeing their drop clues that she told him one of her clues, mountain. But we mustn't tell Turtle. Don't worry, the intern said, displaying a bruised shin. Chris laughed, then stopped. Sorry. Mountain. Denton Deer thought about the new clue. If the treasure is hidden in a grain shed on a mountain plain, I sure don't have time to look for it, do you? Let's forget the clues. I have something more important to tell you. Don't get excited, okay? Chris nodded. His partner was going to ask for the money. Denton Deer stood. I'll get your toothbrush and pajamas, then we'll go to the hospital. Don't get excited. Chris got excited. How could he explain that what he wanted from his partner was companionship, not more probing, pricking doctors with their bad news that made his mother cry? Listen, Chris, can you hear me? Just overnight, I found a neurologist, a nerve doctor who works on problems like yours. Operation? No operation. Did you hear me, Chris? No operation. The doctor thinks a new medicine may help, but he has to examine you, make some tests. I have your parents' permission, but no one will touch you unless we talk it over first. You and me together, I promise. Chris grimaced, trying to smile. His partner said talk it over, the two of them together. They were really partners now. You can have money. What? Oh, the money, later. Here, let me take those. You won't need them in the hospital. Chris clung to his binoculars. Well, I guess you do need them. Ready? Here we go. All of a sudden, he was leaving Sunset Towers, pushed by his limping partner. Maybe Dr. Deer was not who and what he says he is. Maybe he's being kidnapped for ransom. Maybe he's being held hostage. Oh boy, he hadn't had so much fun in years. Chapter 19 is called Odd Relatives. And I just realized I bookmarked this in the wrong spot. Okay, so odd relatives. Thursday was a sunny day, a glorious day. The autumn air was crisp and clear. None of the heirs noticed. WPP crossed the tape at $44, $44.50, $46. $46 a share. Oh my, don't sell until I give the word, Baba, Alice Turtle had said. Baba. The dressmaker smiled at her new name and eased back into the chair, but not for long. WPP $48.25. Oh my. Flora Baumbach bit her thumbnail to the quick. If only the child were here. The child was being examined by the school nurse, having been caught again with a radio plugged in her ear. Turtle blamed her misbehavior on a toothache. The only thing that soothes the horrendous pain is listening to music. You should see a dentist, the nurse said. I have an appointment next week, Turtle lied. Can I go home now? The pain is truly unbearable. No, the nurse packed the tooth with foul-tasting cotton and sent her back to class. So every half hour, Turtle asked permission to go to the laboratory in order to keep up with the latest stock market reports. Bladder infection, she explained. Crow polished Mrs. Wexler's silver teapot with a Westing disposable diaper for the third time. 2 more days, the day after next. It was too painful going back to that house, but Otis said she must to collect her due. It was her penance to go back, not her due. Blessed is he who expects nothing. Boom! Just a warning to keep doors locked, the delivery boy said, dumping a carton of Westing paper products on the kitchen floor. You know, Crow, old pal, I think I figured out who the bomber is. Crow stiffened as she stared at her disoriented reflection in the shining silver. Who? That's right, Otis Amber said. James Shin Hu. He wanted to put the coffee shop out of business, right? Then he had to bomb his own restaurant so nobody would suspect him, right? And he catered the Wexler party. Nobody would notice if the caterer brought in an extra box along with the food, right? James Shin Hu was the bomber. Crow's hands trembled, her face blotched with hate. That beautiful, innocent angel reborn. Sandy said her face will be scarred for life. James Shin Hu, beware. Vengeance shall be mine. The judge rearranged her docket in order to have these last days free. Leave it to Sam Westing to interfere with her work. Sandy turned to his next entry. It's an interesting one. Crow. Bertha Erica Crow, age 57. Mother died at childbirth, raised by father, deceased. Education, 1 year of high school. Married at 16, divorced at 40. Ex-husband name, Windy Windklopple. Hospital records, problems related to chronic alcoholism. Police record, 3 arrests for vagrancy. Gave up drinking when she took up religion. Started the Good Salvation Soup Kitchen on Skid Row. Works as cleaning woman in Sunset Towers. Lives in maid's apartment on 4th floor. Westing connection, ? Yes, it is interesting, Judge Ford replied, but it hardly tells us what we want to know. You've got a customer, Jake Wexler pointed a spare rib at the black-clad figure standing at the restaurant door. Must be a bill collector, Hu said, frowning over his account book. Grace looked up, saw it was only the cleaning woman, and returned to the sports photograph she was sorting. A dozen or more superstars would be framed and hung on one wall of Who's On First. Come on over and join us, Jake shouted. Limping to their table, Crow heard Mrs. Wexler click her tongue. Sinful woman. She'll go somewhere with her pride and her covetousness and take that foot butcher of a husband with her. And that one, the fat one, the glutton, the bomber, the mutilator of innocent children. Maybe she is a customer, Hu thought, recognizing the face clenched in righteous anger as that of a diner not being served fast enough. He rose and pulled out a chair for Crow. My wife will be serving a Chinese tea lunch shortly. Madam Hu placed a variety of dumplings on the table, giggled at Jake, and ran back to the kitchen. That tittering Madam Hu was a beautiful woman, and quite young. Grace, casting a suspicious eye on her husband, was suddenly seized by a surge of gnawing jealousy. Maybe it was just the fried dumpling. Madam Hu returned to pour the tea. Jake patted her hand. Good, Grace noticed. She's clutching her stomach. About time, she felt jealous. The podiatrist turned his smile to Crow. Nothing wrong with your appetite, I'm happy to see. Nothing is wrong with my mouth, the cleaning woman replied, looking down at her plate. It's my feet that hurt. That corn you cut out didn't heal yet. I got a callus on the sole of my left foot. My ingrown toenail was growing in again. Grace clasped a hand over her mouth and ran out of the restaurant. Mr. Hu headed for the kitchen. Your trouble comes from years of wearing the wrong kind of shoes, Jake lectured. Crow wasn't listening. James Shin Hu, the bomber, was coming back. He had something in his hand. Here, Crow, try these. I invented them myself. Paper insoles. They'll make your feet feel like they're floating on air. It's tough standing on your feet all day. Here, take them. Crow examined the 2 pads of spongy folded paper. How much? Nothing. Compliments of the house. Still suspicious, Crow slipped the inner soles into her shoes and tried walking. What a blessed relief. Otis Amber was wrong. James Shin Hu was a charitable man. He couldn't be the bomber. Crow floated out of the restaurant without paying for her lunch. Oh no, not another victim, Sidel Pulaski cried, stuffing her notes under the mattress. The nurse wheeled Chris next to Angela's bed and explained that the boy was being tested for a new medication. Are you all right? She asked, bending over the squirming patient. Chris was trying to remove a blank sealed envelope from his bathrobe pocket. He knew his brother had a crush on Angela. He figured Theo must have sneaked upstairs in the wrong bathrobe to slip the letter under Angela's door, then remembered she was in the hospital and was too shy to give it to her in person. Look at that smile, Sidel exclaimed. From Theo, he said. Chris hoped to watch Angela read the love letter, but the nurse insisted he return to his room. Bye-bye, good luck, Sidel called. Angela waved a bandaged hand. Mountain, Chris replied, from Turtle. Serves her right for kicking his partner. Mountain, Angela thought. Turtle's MT stood for mountain, not empty, and the letter was not from Theo. Your love has two, here are two for you. Take her away from the sin and hate, now before it's too late. Again, 2 clues were taped to the bottom, with majesties. Crow and Otis Amber's clues are not king and queen, she told Siddell. They are with thy beautiful majesties. Sandy and the judge were still at work on the heirs. Wexler, Jake Wexler, age 45, podiatrist, graduated from Marquette, married 22 years, has 2 daughters, see below. Grace Windsor Wexler, born Gracie Winclopple. We've heard that name before. Age 42, married to above, claims to be an interior decorator, spends most of her time in the Chinese restaurant and the beauty parlor. She and Jake, see above, have 2 daughters, see below. Angela Wexler, age 20, engaged to marry D. Denton Deere, also an heir. 1 year college, high grades, victim of 3rd bombing, embroiders a lot. Turtle Wexler, real name Tabitha Ruth Wexler, age 13, junior high school student, plays the stock market, smart kid but kicks people. Flora Bombach calls her Alice. Westing connection. Grace Windsor Wexler claims that Sam Westing is her real uncle. Angela looks like Violet Westing, so does Grace in a way, except she's older. Sandy fidgeted with his pen. There's something I didn't write down. Maybe I shouldn't tell you, you being a judge and all, but, well, Jake Wexler, he's a bookie. No, he should not have told her. A small-time operator, I'm sure, Mr. McSuthers, the judge replied coldly. It can have no bearing on the matter before us. Sam Westing manipulated people, cheated workers, bribed officials, stole ideas, but Sam Westing never smoked or drank or placed a bet. Give me a bookie any day over such a fine, upstanding, clean-living man. The doorman's face reddened. He pulled the dented flask from his hip pocket and downed several swigs. She had been too harsh. Would you like me to fix you a drink, Mr. McSuthers? No thanks, Judge. I prefer my good old Scotch. Winclopple! The judge's outburst was so unexpected. Sandy had a hard time keeping down the last swig. Grace Wexler's maiden name is not Windsor, it's Winclopple, the judge exclaimed, rifling through the pages of Sandy's notebook. Here it is, Bertha Erica Crow, ex-husband's name, Wendy Winclopple. Sandy stopped coughing and started laughing. Grace Windsor Wexler is related to somebody, all right. She's related to the cleaning woman. Think she knows, Judge? I doubt it. Besides, we cannot be certain of the relationship. I'd like to see the documents in Crow's folder again. I'm sure it's Winclopple, Judge. I checked all my spellings 3 times over. Judge Ford reread the private investigator's reports. Mr. McSuthers, it is Winclopple, but look carefully at the name of the woman in this interview. Bertha Erica Crow? Sure, I know her. She and her pa lived in the upstairs flat. We were best friends, almost like sisters, but she was the pretty one with her beautiful complexion and long gold red hair. She left school to marry a guy named Winclopple. Haven't seen or heard from her since. She's not in any trouble, is she? Transcript of a taped interview with Sybil Pulaski, November 12th. Pulaski, the doorman said. Not just Pulaski, the judge pointed out. Sybil Pulaski. Sam Westing wanted Crow's childhood friend, Sybil Pulaski, to be one of his heirs. He got Siddell Pulaski instead. Gee, Judge, I never noticed that. Boy, am I dumb. What does it mean? What does it mean, Mr. McSuthers, is that Sam Westing made his first mistake. Chapter 20 is called Confessions. Friday came quickly to the Westing heirs. Too quickly. Time was running out. Turtle skipped school. She was in trouble enough, but she could build her own school and hire her own kind of teachers once she became a millionaire. In spite of having Turtle at her side, Flora Bombach still stared at the ever-changing endless tape from the edge of the chair, chewed what remained of her fingernails, and uttered an "oh my" each time WPP went by. At 2 o'clock, Westing Paper Products sold at $52 a share, its highest price in 15 years. Now, Bubba, sell! Doug Who had a legitimate excuse from classes. Tomorrow was the big track meet. He jogged, he sprinted, he ran at full speed, not on the track, but on the trail of Otis Amber. Back and forth from the shopping center to Sunset Towers, again and again and again, and hey, this is a new direction. Otis Amber parked his delivery bike in front of a rooming house and went inside. Doug waited, hidden in a doorway across the street, and waited. People came and went, but no Otis Amber. Doug jogged up and down the block for 2 hours. Still no sign of Otis Amber. Doug was cold and hungry, but at least his feet didn't hurt anymore. Last night when he asked Doc Wexler about the blisters, the podiatrist told him to see his father. His father, of all people. But those paper insoles really worked. At 5 o'clock, Otis Amber skipped out of the rooming house, hopped on his bicycle, and returned to Sunset Towers empty-handed. Doug's assignment was over. Well, almost over. Where was Theo? Theo was being patched up in the hospital emergency room after a slight miscalculation in his solution experiment. Fortunately, no one else was around when the lab blew up. You like playing with explosives, kid? The bomb squad detective asked. Accidents in high school chemistry were not unusual, but this student lived in Sunset Towers. I was experimenting on chemical fertilizers, Theo replied, wincing as the doctor probed his shoulder for a glass shard. The first bomb went off in your folks' coffee shop, right? Your mother and father work pretty hard, don't they? They work harder than I do. Why all the questions? Your captain said the Sunset Towers explosions were just fireworks. Sure they were, but bombers have a funny habit of going in for bigger and bigger bangs until they get caught. Theo had an alibi. He was nowhere near the Wexler apartment the day the third bomb went off. The detective grunted a warning about careless chemistry, but Theo had already learned his lesson. Ouch. At last, the coffee shop owner himself delivered the up order. The judge came right to the point. Mr. Theodorakis, tell me about your relationship with Violet Westing. I have reason to believe a life is in danger, or I would not ask. It was a question he'd expected. I grew up in Westingtown, where my father was a factory foreman. Violet Westing and I were, childhood sweethearts. We planned to get married someday when I could afford it, but her mother broke us up. She wanted Violet to marry somebody important. The judge had to interrupt. Her mother? Are you saying it was Mrs. Westing who arranged the marriage, not Sam Westing? George Theodorakis nodded. That's right. Sam Westing tried to involve Violet in his business. I guess he hoped she'd take over the paper company one day, but she had her heart set on being a teacher. Besides, Violet didn't have much of a business sense. After that, her father never paid her much attention. Go on. The judge held the witness in her stare. The subject was becoming painful, and Mr. Theodorakis faltered several times in the telling. Mrs. Westing handpicked that politician, probably figured the guy would end up in the White House and her daughter would be First Lady. But Violet thought he was nothing but a cheap political hat, a cheap crook. Violet was a gentle person, an only child. She couldn't turn against her mother. She couldn't face marrying that guy. I guess she couldn't find a way out except... Mrs. Westing sort of went off her rocker after Violet's death, and it was a long time ago. Thank you, Mr. Theodorakis, the judge said, ending the interrogation. The man had a different life now, different loves, different problems. Thank you. You have been a big help. Sandy was now able to complete the entry. Theodorakis, Theo Theodorakis, age 17, high school senior, works in family coffee shop, wants to be a writer, seems lonely, can't find anyone to play chess with. Christus Theodorakis, age 15, younger brother of above, confined to wheelchair, disease struck about 4 years ago, knows a lot about birds. Westing connection. Father was childhood sweetheart of Sam Westing's daughter, who looked like Angela Wexler. Mrs. Westing broke up the affair. She wanted daughter to marry someone else, but Violet Westing killed herself before the wedding. Neither parents of above are heirs. I hear the new medicine they're trying out on Chris is doing some good, Sandy reported, but the poor kid needs more help than medicine. He's real smart, you know. Chris could have a real future, be a scientist or a professor even, but it will take a pile of money, more money than his folks could ever make, to put him through college with a handicap like that. The parents interest me more, the judge said. Why are they not heirs? Sandy had some thoughts on that too. Maybe Sam Westing didn't want to embarrass George Theodorakis, him being married and all. Or maybe Westing figured he'd be too busy with his coffee shop to stay in the game. Or maybe Westing blamed him for his daughter's death, figuring they should have eloped. No, if Sam Westing blamed Mr. Theodorakis, he would have made him an heir in this miserable game, the judge replied. There are too many maybes here, which is what Sam Westing planned. We must not allow ourselves to be distracted from the real issue. Which heir did Sam Westing want punished? The person who hurt him most, Sandy guessed? And who would that be? The person who caused his daughter's death. Exactly, Mr. McSuthers. Sam Westing plotted against the person he held responsible for his daughter's suicide, the person who forced Violet Westing to marry a man she loathed. Mrs. Westing? But that's not possible, Judge. Mrs. Westing is not one of the heirs. I think she is, Mr. McSuthers. The former wife of Sam Westing must be one of the heirs. Mrs. Westing is the answer, and whoever she is the one we have to protect. So that is the end of what we're reading today. The next chapter is chapter 21, and it is called The Fourth Bomb. So we're going to read 21, 22, and 23 next time. We hope you are enjoying the story. We hope that you will come back and see what is up with the fourth bomb and beyond. And we can't wait to see you back at the library soon. Have a great day.